Welcome to Year 7 English. My name is Gabrielle and this is Unit 1, What is Language? This is Lesson 1, How has language changed over time? Let's do a starter activity. The English language is nobody's special property. It is the property of the imagination. It is the property of the language itself. What is this meaning behind this quote by Derek Walcott? So take a moment to think about that question. You can write down some notes if you like, or if you need to pause the video, do so at this point. When you're ready to check the answers, restart the video. Think about it. 1. What do you think Walcott means when he says the English language is nobody's special property? So take a moment to think about that. You can pause the video if you need to, and when you're ready to check the answers, restart the video. Well, basically, Walcott means that language doesn't just belong to the person who speaks it. It is a common language, used by everyone, shared by everyone, and developed by everyone. It is always changing. So to illustrate that point of a changing language, a language that's used by everyone and that everybody changes as they use it, is this video by TED Talks called How Did English Evolve? We're going to watch this video, then answer some questions on the next slide.
I'm going to start with a challenge. I want you to imagine each of these two scenes in as much detail as you can. Scene number 1. They gave us a hearty welcome. Well, who are the people who are giving a hearty welcome? What are they wearing? What are they drinking? Okay, scene 2. They gave us a cordial reception. How are these people standing? What expressions are on their faces? What are they wearing and drinking? Fix these pictures in your mind's eye, and then jot down a sentence or two to describe them. We'll come back to them later. Now on to our story. In the year 400 CE, the Celts in Britain were ruled by Romans. This had one benefit for the Celts. The Romans protected them from the barbarian Saxon tribes of northern Europe. But then the Roman Empire began to crumble, and the Romans withdrew from Britain. With the Romans gone, the Germanic tribes, the Angles, Saxons, Jutes, and Frisians quickly sailed across the water, did away with the Celts, and formed kingdoms in the British Isles. For several centuries, these tribes lived in Britain, and their Germanic language, Anglo-Saxon, became the common language, what we call Old English. Although modern English speakers may think Old English sounds like a different language, if you look and listen closely, you'll find many words that are recognizable. For example, here's what the Lord's Prayer looks like in Old English. At first glance, it may look unfamiliar, but update the spelling a bit and you'll see many common English words. So the centuries passed, with Britons happily speaking Old English. But in the 700s, a series of Viking invasions began, which continued until a treaty split the island in half. On one side were the Saxons. On the other side were the Danes, who spoke a language called Old Norse. As Saxons fell in love with their cute Danish neighbors and marriages blurred the boundaries, Old Norse mixed with Old English, and many Old Norse words, like freckle, leg, root, skin, and want, are still a part of our language. 300 years later, in 1066, the Norman conquest brought war again to the British Isles. The Normans were Vikings who had settled in France. They had abandoned the Viking language and culture in favor of a French lifestyle, but they still fought like Vikings. They placed a Norman king on the English throne, and for 3 centuries, French was the language of the British royalty. Society in Britain came to have 2 levels: French-speaking aristocracy and Old English-speaking peasants. The French also brought many Roman Catholic clergymen with them, who added Latin words to the mix. Old English adapted and grew as thousands of words flowed in, many having to do with government, law, and aristocracy. Words like council, marriage, sovereign, govern, damage, and parliament. As the language expanded, English speakers quickly realized what to do if they wanted to sound sophisticated. They would use words that had come from French or Latin. Anglo-Saxon words seemed so plain, like the Anglo-Saxon peasants who spoke them. Let's go back to the two sentences you thought about earlier. When you pictured the hearty welcome, did you see an earthy scene with relatives hugging and talking loudly? Were they drinking beer? Were they wearing lumberjack shirts and jeans? And what about the cordial reception? I bet you pictured a far more classy and refined crowd, blazers and skirts, wine and caviar. Why is this? How is it that phrases that are considered just about synonymous by the dictionary can evoke such different pictures and feelings? Hearty and welcome are both Saxon words. Cordial and reception come from French. The connotation of nobility and authority has persisted around words of French origin, and the connotation of peasantry, real people, salt of the earth, has persisted around Saxon words. Even if you never heard this history before, the memory of it persists in the feelings evoked by the words you speak. On some level, it's a story you already knew, because whether we realize it consciously or only subconsciously, our history lives in the words we speak and hear.
Okay, let's take a look at the video questions. 1. Is the English we speak today the same as the language spoken in Celtic times? 2. Which language was the common language in England before the Vikings? 3. What language did the Vikings speak? 4. What language did the Normans speak? 5. What language did the peasants speak? And 6. What language did the nobles speak? Finally, number 7. What other language was spoken in England during medieval times? So take a moment to pause the video now and answer these questions in your notebook. When you're ready to check the answers, restart the video. Welcome back. Here are the answers to our video questions. 1. Is the English we speak today the same as the language spoken in Celtic times? The answer is no. 2. Which language was the common language in England before the Vikings? That was Old English. 3. What language did the Vikings speak? Old Norse. 4. What language did the Normans speak? That is Norman French. 5. What language did the peasants speak? They spoke Old English. 6. What language did the nobles speak? They spoke French. And 7. What other language was spoken in England during medieval times? This was Latin, which came from the Italian Catholic priests and missionaries living in England at that time. Well, that brings us to the end of Lesson 1, How has language changed over time? Thanks for watching. Don't forget to visit our website www.voyagerschool.com.au for more valuable courses in more subjects for high school students. See you next time.